Good morning, everyone. It's time to get out of bed. Now, if you recall, Shenmue HD has been released. That's right, after 20 years, or under 20 years, just about. After about that long, about almost 2 decades, Shenmue is no longer a Dreamcast exclusive. Time to throw my Sega Dreamcast into the bin. I won't do that. But more importantly, yes, Shenmue HD has been released, which means that you can now play Shenmue on PS4, Xbox One, and PC via Steam. So now you can finally play Shenmue on all modern gaming platforms, and with the added benefit of HD widescreen.
そういえば猫の餌になるかもしれないな。よし、持って行ってやるか。
So this video is just going to be a bit of a rambly video. I'm just going to talk about Shenmue in general, about this port as well, and about Shenmue in the modern day. How does it hold up? Has it aged well? All those stupid questions that everyone likes to ask about old games. I do want to clarify one thing though, and it's something that quite a few people have been asking me on Twitter and various other outlets. People have been asking if I will Let's Play Shenmue HD, and I want to confirm that I will not be doing that because I've already Let's Played Shenmue, and Let's Playing the same game twice seems like an act of desperation, and thankfully I'm not that level yet. And to be honest, I don't see much of a point because the HD version is the exact same game. It's actually a pretty good port, so there have been no real sort of changes or anything like that. So you would be seeing the experience. If you watch that old video series again, you'd more or less be seeing exactly what you'd see here, except with lower resolution graphics and stuff. So really, if you really want to see a Let's Play, just watch my old videos again. Or better yet, since the games are now available on like PC and stuff, PS4, Xbox One, there's really no excuse for you not to play it now. It's actually relatively cheap. It's only about £24 or whatever the equivalent is of US dollars. So they're quite affordable in my opinion, and relatively cheap. So if you really want to experience Shenmue, just try it out yourself. You might like it. You might like actually playing it rather than listening to a stupid idiot talk over it the whole time. Anyway, as you can see, I got quite lucky on my playthrough and I managed to win a copy of Space Harrier for the Sega Saturn at the convenience store raffle, which, if you remember, I also won it in my Let's Play as well, so I managed to win it twice, so that's quite nice. You don't have to go to the arcades and pay for it. And yeah, as you can see, all the arcade games have made it into the port. They managed to get it working, so that's good. You can play Space Harrier and Hang On. And you can just while away the hours. Whoops, I'm an idiot and crashed into a tree. Anyway, so yeah, now that the games have been made available on modern platforms, it means that you don't need a Dreamcast to play the games, which is good, because before it might have been, I guess, relatively expensive if you wanted to experience Shenmue. You had to have a Dreamcast, you maybe had to finding like an old copy of Shenmue as well on the internet is actually quite expensive. Or you could emulate it, I suppose, and that comes with its own issues. So it's good that they finally allowed it to be available in an official capacity. And not only that, these ports are actually pretty damn good, in my opinion. Like, they run well. They look pretty good graphically, so it's good. You don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops anymore. You just buy it and play it, which is always very convenient. And games keep getting re-released a lot nowadays. It's actually kind of surprising how many PS2 games have been released on PS4. I mean, I just looked on Twitter right now as a recording, and oh look, Capcom have re-released or are going to re-release Onimusha, on PS4. Okami has been released in HD a billion times now. Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense to re-release a bunch of PS2 games since the PS4 isn't backwards compatible. You know how convenient that would be if there was actual backwards compatibility? No, it's just easier just to re-release the games and have you buy it again. Yeah, so, I'm not necessarily against re-releases, mind you, but I think in Shenmue's case it was definitely warranted, considering you kind of needed the Dreamcast for that, and the Dreamcast obviously doesn't exist. Sega don't really make consoles anymore, so there's no real way of experiencing Shenmue until now, where you can actually buy it, so that's good. And of course, now that it's out, people are asking the old question that they like to ask: does Shenmue really hold up today? It is quite an old game now, and I guess there are quite a few gameplay design decisions that you probably wouldn't put in if this game was made today. And not only that, you know, Shenmue is sort of, at the time it was advertised as being revolutionary and having a bunch of new novel features. But the thing is, a lot of those features now have been incorporated into every video game ever, and have been, you know, executed better than they have been in this game. Things like the day-night cycle, open world aspect, you know, things like that. Dynamic weather. Pretty much every game has dynamic weather, and it's kind of weird, but yeah, I mean, those games do it probably better than this game does. So, you know, all those sort of fancy new features the game has ain't so special nowadays. So is Shenmue really that special, is what I'm asking. And short answer, yes, I think it is, but I'll probably need to explain it a bit more. First, I want to showcase that yes, this is the exact same game. Graphically speaking, nothing has really changed. It even has that weird issue where the skybox doesn't quite match the actual 3D world. But if you're not a fan of the HD, you can turn down the resolution scale. And if you don't like the widescreen, you can change that as well. You can set it to the good old-fashioned 4:3. And you can just recreate how it looks on the Dreamcast, if you liked, you know. And it actually looks pretty close. With this resolution, it looks quite close to how it looks on a Dreamcast. There's some added bloom that's been backported from Shenmue 2 on the Xbox. There wasn't in the Dreamcast version. You can turn that off as well. But yeah, I'm just showcasing that you can change the graphics to make it look like the Dreamcast if you really want to. I won't be, I don't see a point. You know, you might as well keep the HD. And honestly, like, the graphics are pretty good in my opinion. You know, they hold up in HD. The textures and the geometry, for the most part, looks pretty good even in this upscaled resolution. So in that regard, I think the graphics still hold up.
Ryo-san, 一つ稽古をつけてください。わかった。相手するよ。全力で行きますよ。全力で行きますよ。
So, as I've mentioned, this is Shenmue more or less unchanged. There have been no real, you know, graphical changes or engine changes. The gameplay is exactly the same. Even this clunky fighting system has remained unchanged from the original game. The fighting engine is kind of clunky. It's sort of a modified version of the Virtua Fighter system. It works well in one-on-one fights like this, but it kind of gets a bit weird when multiple people are on screen, and it's kind of hard to know who you're targeting. So yeah, if you had an issue with that in the original release, they haven't done anything to change that, which is fair enough. This is, you know, it's a re-release, not a remastered port. The fighting system is actually something that slightly annoys me. Not the fact that it's inherently bad, I actually quite like it in some ways. It's just the fact that there is a lot of depth to it, but they never seem to use that depth, because there's a million different moves you can learn. You have to train the moves. There's like a leveling system for each move you learn. The problem is, though, you never actually have to use it. You can just get by using the basic combos or just spamming the good moves over and over again. So there's really no real incentive to using the extra moves other than just your own personal satisfaction, which I guess sums up a lot of this game in general, I suppose. There's a lot to this game that you don't actually have to pay any attention to. And if you breeze through the game without paying attention to it, and you might think, well, there's no reason for me to do any of these things, so why would I do them? This seems all pointless. But yeah, that's the kind of weird thing about this game. There are a lot of things that I guess are quote-unquote pointless. You're not rewarded necessarily for finding them. They're all entirely optional. There's lots of stuff in the game like that. But you kind of, the fact that finding these things yourself and exploring is in itself satisfying. And I think it's due to how immersive the game is. I use the word immersive because that's one of those like buzzwords that game developers like to throw around a lot. But I do think Shenmue 1 actually has a pretty immersive game world, even now, after all these years. Anyway, I quickly want to touch upon one of the major improvements upon the HD version, and it's the load times. Look how quick that is. Instantaneous. In the Dreamcast version, you'd be waiting around 20 to 30 seconds to move between areas, and you had to sit there and listen to the Dreamcast try and load from the disc. But now it's instant, and that's great because that actually improves gameplay in a much more positive way, you know. Before, the load times actually kind of disincentivized you from exploring different buildings because it meant having to endure another load screen. But now it's almost seamless. It's almost like they're not there, so you're more free to explore and, you know, go into buildings all you want.
Yeah.
りょう兄ちゃん、またみんなで遊ぼうね。
ああ、じゃあまたな。
うん、バイバイ。
かよこちゃん、
りょう兄ちゃん。
猫見てるのかい？
うん、猫ちゃん、かわいいよね。
ああ、じゃあな。
バイバイ。
Another improvement to Shenmue HD you might have noticed is the HUD. The UI is a lot better, and they've improved the inventory system, so now your items are stored in tabs, which is great. Now, sort of story items and scroll moves and capsule toys are all stored in their own tabs, which is great. It's a change I didn't even know I wanted, but now thinking about it, don't even know how I could have lived without. So yeah, I think even just for the load times alone, I'd say this is probably a lot better than the original Dreamcast version. I'm trying to think of what other differences there are between this and the original version. There's, you know, obviously the graphics, the resolution specifically. They've added bloom, I mentioned that already. The UI is a lot better. They've basically redone a lot of the UI and the HUD and the subtitles and stuff, so they all appear HD. The in-game textures, as far as I know, are exactly the same, so there's no real changes there. Shenmue 2 in this collection uses the Xbox version, so that has slight graphical differences between that and the original Dreamcast version. So it's things like basically slightly more detailed Ryo Hazuki model, I think, in the Xbox version. There's some other stuff as well, but basically, yeah, the version you'll get in this collection is the Xbox version. Some of the textures have been changed because I guess they had to change some of the stuff because some of the graphical assets use licensed images or something. So I guess the most obvious one is, well, it won't really make much of a difference to us English players, but the vending machines in Japan had the Coca-Cola license, and you don't get that anymore. You get the Bell Cola, which, of course, outside of Japan, we never got the Coca-Cola license anyway, so it doesn't make much difference. But in Japan, that's been changed as well, so no more Coca-Cola. A few of the capsule toys have actually been changed as well. Like the Dreamcast Go character, if you remember, she was like, there's the capsule toy of like the Sega consoles as like little chibi-fied little characters, and they were part of this weird comic series in Japan. Those have been changed, so they're not representative of those characters. They're now just little tiny consoles. So no more Dreamcast Go, I'm afraid. A few of the images and textures have been changed. I'm not entirely sure why. I guess they must have used like royalty-free images or like licensed images, and they had to change them. But there's a video out there showing some of the like texture changes, and it's sort of interesting to see. Some of them, they're quite minor. Like, you might not even notice it until someone like maybe points it out to you. But yeah, some of the textures have been changed and edited. As I mentioned, the Coca-Cola stuff. The Timex brand is now also gone, so Ryo Hazuki's watch is no longer a Timex watch. If you were paying attention when Ryo Hazuki woke up this morning, his alarm clock normally says Timex, but now it has no branding at all. So yeah, just things like that. Some of the branding and license stuff is now gone, which makes sense, I suppose.
Gotoka.
後藤じゃまだまだあんたも青いよ。
hey, a 5's better than nothing. So yeah, another change is they added achievements, because I guess every game needs achievements nowadays. What the heck, I seem to be stuck. Why am I... Oh, there's a kid blocking the door. I couldn't move for a minute, I just had to shuffle my way around the child. So yeah, I mean, I don't honestly care for achievements much, but I guess it's nice that they're there. I do like that there is an achievement for calling the police near the start of the game, and the achievement is called Appropriate Response. That just kind of makes me laugh, because that indicates a level of self-awareness on the part of the developers of the game. Though I guess specifically the developers of this HD port, which was not done by the original team, it was done by a UK-based company called D3T Limited. I've never heard of them either. But hey, good job D3T Limited. I've said this before, probably a few times already, but I do think Shenmue 2 is the better game, or, you know, of the two. But I do think Shenmue 1 has a much more comfier and immersive atmosphere to it. I've sort of heard Shenmue is sort of the progenitor to like open world games like GTA and stuff, and depending on how you look on this game, you can kind of look at it as like a proto-Yakuza, because the Yakuza games do a lot of the things that this game does, you know, a lot better now. You know, it has a much better combat system, and in some ways you could argue, well, if Yakuza exists, why do you need to play this game? And I guess honestly I don't really have a good answer. Like, Yakuza has sort of surpassed Shenmue in a lot of ways in terms of like technical stuff. But yeah, you kind of have to look at this game from like a different perspective, because I wouldn't look at the game as an open world game like, say, GTA or Skyrim, where you can go out and do anything, because you can't really. You're quite limited in what you can actually do. You're always Ryu Hazuki, the bumbling schoolboy going around talking to people. That's kind of his thing. You know, you don't have the openness of GTA where you can run around and do whatever you want. You can like steal cars, you can blow up things. You can't do any of that in this game. But I think this game, if you look at it more from the perspective of something like a JRPG, and if you imagine in a typical JRPG you have the starting town, and it's usually, you know, for example, it's usually like the hometown of the main character. And in a typical, say, JRPG, you have all the characters there, they all know the protagonist, and the protagonist knows them, and they're all friends. And that's kind of what it feels like to me. Shenmue 1 kind of feels like a JRPG town, except all those NPCs are a lot more believable in this game, because I think the game does a pretty good job at making these people feel more realistic. They don't do a lot. Like, you talk to them and they all have like fairly similar lines of dialogue, but they all walk around, they all do their own thing, and a real effort was made, I think, to really make these guys convincing, which I really think helps add to the immersion of the game.
考え事してた。エリちゃんなんでオロオロしてるのかなって。田島が？うん。でもちゃんと教えてくれないの。のぞみちゃんのことだとは思うんだけど、葉月くん何か知らない？俺は別に。そう。中村。ねえ、葉月くん、エリちゃんどうしてオロオロしてるんだと思う？さあ、どうだろうな。そう。じゃあ、俺行くから。うん、バイバイ。
Yeah, as you've noticed by now, one of the additions to the HD version is there's dual language support, so now you can switch the language to Japanese.
すいません。日本語ちょっとだけね。Bye bye, boy.
Yeah, you can switch the language to Japanese. I can't say it improves the quality of the voice acting any. The voice acting is still kind of dodgy in spots, and I don't know if that's just like how the acting is, but yeah, some of it just seems a bit weird. It's like Noriko just now, that girl with the red dress. In the English dub, she talks very slowly. She's like, oh, she's thinking, wondering what to do after school, whatever, you know, that she just talks in this very deliberate and slow way, and it feels like that the voice actress is deliberately talking slow to match like the audio files and stuff. But I just talked to her in Japanese, and she still sounds kind of slow. And I realise now that that's kind of intentional now. She probably, like the English voice actress, probably listened to the original English dub, original Japanese dub rather, and tried to emulate that to some degree, because like it feels very unnatural in English, but it's not actually that far off from how it sounds in Japanese, and that's kind of what blew my mind. Even when I first played the game, I switched it to Japanese because I've never experienced Japanese, and it actually surprised me because when you walk out of your room on like the first day, Ine-san says Ryo-san and starts talking to you, but like the way she says Ryo-san sounds exactly the same in both English and Japanese. So for a split second I forgot I actually switched it to Japanese, and it wasn't until like a few seconds later and she said a few Japanese words that I realised, oh yeah, I switched it to Japanese, and it was really weird. Anyway, I'm just following these biker guys because I'm not really sure where they're going, and I'm not sure how much the game actually tracks where they go. The game actually tracks the movements of most of the NPCs in this game, which for the time was pretty impressive. You know, you don't normally have like a game monitoring the movements of all its characters through all the different areas and stuff, but it does. You know, like every character has its own time, you know, they have their own time schedules, they do their own thing at different times of the day, they go to different places. Like these biker guys, they were at the arcades. I was wondering where they're going at this time. It turns out they just kind of drive around, they don't actually go anywhere. They don't even go to this area, they turn back at some point. But yeah, like they drive around for a bit, and then later on you see them hanging outside in the motorcycle shop in the evenings, which is a nice attention to detail, you know. And most of the characters have this sort of, you know, they have their own, you know, different places to be at different times of the day, which again adds to the believability of these characters, and it was pretty unique at the time. Not many games did this. I know it's not the only game that did this. There's, I think, Beneath a Steel Sky, like the old adventure game on the PC, that had like these dynamic moving characters which kind of moved around, and you kind of had to find the characters in order to solve certain puzzles, which I guess kind of makes sense. You know, it's similar to this, although not quite as grand a scale. The only other game that comes to mind that does something similar with its characters is Majora's Mask. That's a game that takes place over a 3-day period, and basically every character in the games in the town has like a specific place they are and what they do at specific times during that 3-day period, which is neat. I think that system works pretty well in that game as well for making the town more believable. I think there's also something special about the fact that everyone just happens to know Ryo, and Ryo just knows everyone, and he's super friendly with everyone. That kind of adds to the sort of homely feel of the game.
Maeda-san, Ryo-kun, ちょっと話してもいいかな? はあ。あいつを見ると、こう指がうずくというか。この際、俺が金を払ってでも。トムの髪一度切ってやりたいってね。はあ。そう言われても困るか。ごめんな、りょうくん。いえ、じゃあ失礼します。ああ、これに懲りずまた来てくれ。はい。ミキさん。ハロー、りょうくん。前田さん、忙しそうですか？全然暇。ねえねえ、どっか行こうよ。いや、ちょっと。へえ、そうなの？じゃ、またね。はい。
Ryo Hazuki's so cool, he just turns down all the ladies. Anyway, yeah, I really like that line of dialogue from Maeda-san, who just really wants to cut Tom's hair. You know, it's kind of funny because I look on this game now and I try to look at games like this from like an objective viewpoint a little bit. I mean, you're never going to be completely objective, but I look at this game and I like it a lot, but I can also see a lot of like things I perceive as problems. Like, it's very slow paced. Like, not a whole lot happens in Shenmue 1, and it's kind of got clunky controls, and it's got a lot of stuff that a lot of people might not like. So I was a little bit surprised to see how well the game was actually being received when it was released in HD. Because I was kind of expecting like all the modern gamers nowadays would play this old game about this bumbling idiot walking around Japan, not really accomplishing a lot, and just talking to people who have absolutely nothing interesting to say. But then Shenmue HD comes out, and everyone loves it. Like, it's got pretty good Metacritic ratings. It's reached number 2 in the UK sales charts. I didn't expect it to be that popular, honestly. Like, I was kind of expecting people like would kind of see it as this kind of dated game now, but apparently people still like it, and that makes me happy, I guess, because it means that I'm not completely blinded by nostalgia, although maybe everyone else is. Anyway, here I am playing Hang On, another old Sega arcade game that appears in Shenmue. I'm never any good at Hang On. I swear I've never made it past the 3rd checkpoint. I'm just absolutely terrible at this game. I don't know what it is. Like, I've played this quite a few times, but I always just mess up horribly. Like, in order to make it to the checkpoint, you basically have to get roughly about a minute per checkpoint. But that basically means you can't slow down at all. You can't touch any car or any bike because that'll slow you down. Yeah, you just have to be super careful with it, and it's just really hard, and I'm no good at it, so yeah. It's fun though. I do like playing it. Actually, I feel like it plays a bit better here. Like, I remember not liking it that much when I played it on Shenmue and the Dreamcast, and I kind of felt like it was too sensitive, but playing it on the PC using my PS4 controller, it feels a bit better, so maybe it was just the Dreamcast controller. Because Dreamcast controller wasn't that great, honestly. Like, it was cool, I like it, but the D-pad and the analog stick kind of felt crummy, unfortunately. So, yeah, I mean, that's sort of the case with old controllers, really. I think the N64 is a bit like that. The 3D control stick was, you know, a new idea, but it was also kind of shit. It didn't last very long, they always broke. You play a game like Mario Party, that thing wouldn't last 5 minutes. Anyway, I'm getting a bit off topic now. I was talking about Shenmue, so yeah, I mean, this isn't a game for everyone, that's kind of what I was saying. It's kind of a weirdly paced game, and there's some things in it that, especially nowadays, modern gaming people probably might have some difficulty looking past some of this game's faults. And I'm not blind to those faults. I know that the game's kind of crummy, like, in terms of pacing and stuff. I know the story isn't actually that complex, it's a basic revenge story, essentially. I know that, you know, the graphics aren't that special these days. I know the controls are kind of clunky. You know, there's a lot of things that are just kind of inconvenient, like you can't skip time, so if you have to wait for an event, like for a certain thing to open or for something to happen, you can't even skip forward in time, so you just kind of have to wait and let things happen, and that happens in real time, or like real game time, so you can't skip time. And that's inconvenient, especially if you're used to games where you can skip time and wait for events. You know, and yeah, I'm not blind to those faults. I'm not, you know, not sort of a complete fanboy of this game. I'm usually try to keep an open mind about things like this. I mean, I backed Shenmue 3 on Kickstarter, and I'm fully expecting that game to never live up to the hype. How can it? Like, the hype was huge for Shenmue 3, and there's absolutely no way it could possibly ever reach that hype. The best I hope for Shenmue 3 is that it will be good. It will be at least decent, and I would at least get some closure on the story, even if it might not necessarily end at Shenmue 3, which is slightly worrying. But even so, you know, I don't... you know, I'm not saying, oh, Shenmue 2 is going to be amazing. It might be amazing, you never know. But, you know, my hopes is that it'll be at least decent. And I know it's not going to be a perfect game, but so long as it keeps us Shenmue fans happy, that'll be something, right? So long as it actually comes out, or at least comes out decent, that's the best you can kind of hope for with these Kickstarter projects. And you know, some of the footage they've released of it actually looks pretty good, so here's hoping it doesn't turn out to be a train wreck. It's really the best you can hope for with these Kickstarter projects. So you might, looking at this, it seems kind of quaint, doesn't it? Like, you go into a virtual arcade and play video games inside a video game. At the time, you know, this was sort of a really weird and interesting novelty, being able to play or emulate aspects of real life in a video game in such a convincing way. And I think there was a time when we were all sort of trying to emulate that in games, you know, where we were sort of trying to replicate some of the details we see in our everyday life and trying to replicate that in a video game. It seems kind of benign and pointless now, you know, like, you have, in order to catch a bus, you have to just physically wait for the bus to arrive. You have to look on the bus timetable and then go there at the right time. That seems kind of stupid. It seems kind of minor. Like, you'd never have that as like your selling point for a video game. But in Shenmue, it kind of works. Like, Shenmue's world is so... Well, I don't want to say like it's super realistic, because I guess it's not these days, but I don't know, like, you can kind of respect what they were trying to do, and if you can sort of look past some of the, you know, the sort of the oldness of it, how antiquated some of the aspects of the game are, you know, you can sort of lose yourself in it. You kind of really feel like you're a stupid 18-year-old Japanese high school kid who's skipping school trying to avenge his father's death in some way. And again, you know, a lot of these things that I'm talking about with Shenmue, other games have done better since. Just look at the Yakuza games again. You can play old arcade games in that one. You have the UFO crane catching game. You can play Virtua Fighter 5 now in Yakuza. That's insane. You know, I remember back in the day, that was such a silly idea. You'd never think that that would be possible, but thanks to the wonders of modern gaming technology, we can do that now. What a world we live in.
We'll sell this next round!
So yeah, as you can see, I'm playing Shenmue 1 with the Japanese voice acting because this is a new way to experience the game for me. I've never played Shenmue 1 with Japanese voices. I think it's a bit more authentic than the English voice acting. Not saying that the quality is a whole lot better, although it certainly is in some parts. But I think it's more authentic since the game is very Japanese and takes place in Japan, so it only makes sense for everyone to talk Japanese. That's sort of my soft rule when it comes to dub versus sub. If the anime or the game takes place in Japan, I'll stick to Japanese, but if the game is, you know, takes place outside of Japan or in a fantasy world, I'm usually more flexible with the rule, and, you know, I just sort of fine with dubs or subs or whatever. So long as the voice acting's okay, I can deal with dubs. I know a lot of people are like subs only, and die-hard subs only fans, but, you know, I don't mind the occasional dub. I say it's a soft rule I follow because, you know, even then I'm not entirely consistent. Games like Persona 5, I played in English just because I thought the English voice acting was pretty good, and even though it doesn't really make any sense for them to be speaking English if they're all in a Japanese high school, but hey, I got over it. I thought the voice acting was pretty good in English, so I stuck to it. So, you know, that's sort of my general vague rule when it comes to dub versus sub. I still have a soft spot for the English voice acting in Shenmue. I'm looking forward to finishing Shenmue 1 so I can finally play Shenmue 2 in English, because of course, if you remember from my Let's Play, I played the Dreamcast version of Shenmue 2, which was only released in Europe and Japan. It was never released in the US, and it was released before they got the English dub all done. So in Europe, it was released with Japanese voices with English subtitles. Which is fine and all, but I kind of missed the English voice acting from Shenmue 1, so I'm looking forward to finally playing Shenmue 2 with the English voice actors, with Corey Marshall starring as Ryo Hazuki, exactly as God intended. Not that there's anything wrong with the Japanese voice acting, mind you. Ryo Hazuki's Japanese voice is by, what's his name? Masaya Matsukaze? That's how you pronounce his name? I don't know. He's done a few things. All I know is that he was the Blue Ranger in, was it Mega Ranger in Japan? Which is known as Power Rangers Neo in English, I think? Oh, I have to look it up. I can't be bothered to open Wikipedia now. But yeah, that's, he's fairly famous in Japan, I guess. Ryo Hazuki's English voice is done by Corey Marshall, who isn't famous at all. He's liked in the Shenmue fan community, I guess, simply for being Ryo Hazuki and being the iconic voice. And they brought back Corey Marshall to voice over some trailers for the release of the Shenmue 1 and 2 HD collection, which is kind of neat. It was kind of funny to hear him again. He'll be coming back in Shenmue 3 as well, so we look forward to hearing the classic Ryo Hazuki voice we all know and love appear again when that eventually comes out, which is, as of this recording, is a year from now. It will be August 2019. Corey Marshall actually follows me on Twitter, although I very much doubt he pays any attention to what I post there, because if he did, I'd assume he'd just unfollow me. Anyway, I'm just sort of chilling at the moment, just wandering around, talking to the townspeople, and hey look, it's Ryo's friends, Naoyuki and Ichiro.
何してたんだ？いや、別に。それにしても毎日寒いな。ああ、そうだな。じゃあ俺用があるから。じゃあな。じゃあまた。
Honestly, I'm looking forward to when it gets cold again. I'm sick of summer. Bring on winter.
何してたんだ？ああ、実は考えてたんだ。夕飯は何かなって。どっかで飯食ってかないか。今はダメなんだ。また今度な。なんだよ、釣れねえな。悪い。じゃあな。じゃあな。
Well, the sun is setting and everyone's finishing up work, so let's have a nice relaxing soft drink from this vending machine. I'll just go with the classic Coke. It's just not the same in Japanese.
Minako-san.
何？
ね
えねえ、旅行雑誌が取材に来てたよ。どぶ板って有名になるかもね。
はあ。
ねえねえ、昨日芸能人がお客で来たんだ。でも名前が思い出せなくて。
そうですか。
See, even in Japanese, Ryo just comes across as a bit of a doofus. The Japanese voice acting doesn't really help in that regard. Anyway, since we're here, let's buy ourselves a cassette tape. And I've already sort of forgotten which one of these I already own, so let's double check our collection using the new and improved inventory system. And yep, I can confirm that I already have the Feel Tired song, so let's buy Like a Feeling.
いらっしゃいませ、葉月くん。
これを。
じゃあ、くじを1回引いて。
And of course, every time you buy a cassette tape, you get a free entry into the raffle.
外れか。
Oh.
ごめんね、せっかく買ってくれたのに。
Well, that's enough of that. Time to head on outside. Oh, okay, someone's blocking the way. I'll just wait for them to come in. You're gonna come in? Please? Why are you trapping me in here? Let me out! Oh, I tried going the other way. Are you gonna come in now? Oh, thank God you're finally coming in. What, you're just gonna walk straight out again? What the... So the game uses the exact same control scheme as the original version. You have the old tank controls, you have... you know, the whole using the right trigger to make Ryohazuki run and using the left trigger to make Ryohazuki zoom in and look around and stuff. So it's kind of the exact same thing. They haven't really made any changes. So if you're not a fan of tank controls, that might take some getting used to. The game does have full mouse and keyboard support. I haven't really used it much because I just use my controller by default. But yeah, if mouse and keyboard support is there if you need it. On a technical level, you do get 1080p resolution, even if you're on one of those fancy advanced consoles like PS4 Pro or Xbox One X. You might be a little bit disappointed that you're not getting 4K, it only goes up to 1080p regardless. But, you know, I guess that's to be expected, really. I mean, I think resolution really only can go so high before it gets to a point where you're really wondering what the difference is, especially in a game like this, which, you know, isn't that detailed. It's quite an old game, so I really don't think anything higher than 1080p would make much of a difference. I've walked into this parking lot because I'm trying to start training, but for some reason Ryohazuki doesn't want to do it. I'm trying to like activate the training mode where I can practice my moves, but it won't let me. So let's head on over to the park and see if he'll do it there.
ここで練習できそうだな。少し体を動かすか。一汗流していこう。
So, like in the original version, you can train your moves and practice by going into empty spaces. You can see this screen that shows you how skilled you are with the different moves. This is a bit of a redesign from the original game, which had like these weird vertical bars. Now it's a little bit more easier to understand. But yeah, I mean, it's not. I feel like this is an idea that should have been developed a little bit more, or made, or streamlined a bit, because you have so many different moves and you can train them all, but training them actually takes quite a lot of time, and it's probably more time than people are sort of willing to put into it. And a lot of the fighting doesn't really take place until the latter part of the game, so it feels kind of like there's not a whole lot of incentive at the start of the game to practice your moves. They kind of got rid of this in Shenmue 2 as well, so if you really don't care that much, you might as well just not bother at this stage and just wait until you get to Shenmue 2, where the fighting system is slightly more streamlined. I can kind of see what they were trying to do here, because, you know, in a normal video game, you'd improve your skills by, you know, pouring experience points into different skills and attributes in order to improve yourself. But that's not how it works in real life. In real life, you practice by practicing, by physically doing things over and over again through repetition. And I thought, I guess, the idea was by doing that in a game that would more accurately reflect how it works in real life. And it's a nice idea, I just think it probably should have been developed a bit more or streamlined a bit, because it doesn't really translate that well to the player. Because for the player, you're just putting in the same button combinations over and over again, and the rate that Ryohazuki learns is slightly different from how the player learns, so I feel like there's a bit of a disconnect there.
Yeah. Hey, Ryo! Genki dasu yo! Ah.
Yep, everyone loves Tom. Anyway, if you remember, we bought a tape cassette earlier, so let's have a listen. Ah, that's some smooth jazz. Whoops, I got bored of jazz, let's listen to Outrun instead. Yeah, whatever. Again, that's just a nice little detail that you can buy tape cassettes and play them.
大丈夫ですか?
大丈夫、大丈夫。
本当に大丈夫ですか?
大丈夫だって。
今
日はナナちゃんのとこにしようかな。ママ、待っててね。
I love that guy. Anyway, it's night time now in Nobuita, and the town takes on a very different feeling at night. A lot of the daytime people go home, meanwhile the night crawlers come out and start getting drunk. I'm going to visit this sushi restaurant. It's a place you never actually have to go to, ever.
ゆり子さん。
あら、りょうくん。
聞きたいことがあるんですが。
あ、これから急ぎの用があるから。また今度ね。
そうですか。それじゃあまた。
Something urgent like eating sushi.
へい、お飲み物からどうぞ。
いえ、食事じゃなくて。
なんで違うのかい。ならすいませんが、ちょいと忙しいんでお帰りいただけやすか。
わかりました。じゃあ失礼します。
Yeah, I can tell you're absolutely swarming with business. Don't let me slow you down. But yeah, you know, this sushi restaurant, there's no reason for it to be here, or, you know, there's no need for you to ever go here during a normal playthrough. But if you want to explore and have a look inside, it's there. You know, you've got a whole restaurant, you have this sushi guy who's just doing his thing. He has his own unique animations for preparing sushi. And it's just hit 8 o'clock, so you can just see I walked past the pharmacist who was closing shop. His shutter was closing. And there's lots of little things, lots of little tiny details that just bring this world to life. And I think it's pretty impressive. Here's another place that I'm just showing off. Again, absolutely no reason for you to ever go here. In fact, all the NPCs in here are not helpful in the slightest. You can't even go here for like... Because most of the NPCs in the game, you just talk to them. And they usually guide you towards the direction of where the story is. But in this case, none of these guys here are ever helpful. It's a mahjong parlor, so it's just full of these weird, shady people.
すいません。
申し訳ない。考え事をしてるのでね。また今度にしてくれないかな。
どうも。
すまないが、徹夜明けなんだ。朝まで麻雀漬けだったからよ。今日は勘弁してくれねえか。
そうですか。
Again, absolutely no reason for you to ever go in here. I don't think I ever went in here during my playthrough in my Let's Play. But it's there, and it's just another little detail that helps bring the world of Shenmue to life. And it is kind of fun to explore and see what there is, and sometimes you find things, sometimes you find hidden events. Sometimes you can go out your way and, you know, you just discover things, and you kind of learn about the town and the people in it. Like, I didn't know that Yuriko goes to the sushi restaurant in the evenings, but there she is, having dinner every evening after she works in the flower store. But the flower store, it's called a florist, or flower shop. And yeah, this area is full of bars and restaurants and stuff, and during the day it's pretty dead. But during the evening it comes to life. All the shops are lit up, more people start coming out, they get drunk. Things happen, you know, you see people walk around and go to bars and drink, and it's pretty convincing, honestly. Like, even today, even after 20 years, I still think that this town and all the little details they put in, I think it still holds up.
Mario.
Oh
my god.
It's a margarita. のぞみ大好きね。すぐできます。
いや、今日はいい。
残念です。
じゃあ、また。
Ciao.
Is this game racist? I can never tell. Well, it might be if you consider Italians as people, which they aren't. I still don't understand why the restaurant is called Bob's Pizzeria when the guy is called Mario. I still don't understand that. I don't think they ever explain it either.
Boy! どいてくれ。
何するね。Hey, stop, boy!
おい、大丈夫か？
Shit! Stop! ミーのことはほっといてくれ。
A lot of the characters in Shenmue 1 are like American sailors, and a lot of them kind of sound like, when they speak Japanese in the Japanese dub, a lot of them sound like that Japanese isn't their first language, and I wonder if they actually got like Western voice actors to try and speak Japanese, or if they're just Japanese people putting on an accent. Because a character you meet later on, Mark, who works at the harbour, he speaks perfect English, even in Japanese, and it's kind of weird. Like, he speaks better English than the English voice actor. It's bizarre, honestly. So, yeah, I wonder really about like who did the voice acting for the Japanese version.
西条さん、どうした？いえ、なんでもないです。
バーはいくつかの風が。
Saijo-san, I think that drink is properly mixed now. You've been at that for hours.
あら、りょうちゃん。
明美さん。
いい加減帰んなさい。稲さんが心配してるよ。
わかりました。
I'm not really sure what the deal with Akemi-san is. She just kind of hangs out at the bar Yokosuka, and she always greets Ria Hazuki automatically. Whenever you walk past, she just greets him. So I guess she's really friendly with him or something. So I'm guessing that Ria Hazuki frequents that bar quite often, even though he's technically underage and can't drink. But he still goes there, just hanging out, because he seems to be good friends with Saijo-san as well.
Hey, you! 遊んでいけないか？
いいぜ。
Okay!
So yeah, you can go into the MJQ Jazz Bar and you can play some pool. But not like a full game of pool, only these little trick shots. They just give you a trick shot every day and you can just try and make it. And you get as many tries as you want. So I messed up that time, so let's try it again.
Good! いいようでしてるね。See you tomorrow night.
And that's it. That's the whole game of pool. You don't even get to play a full game, it's just one shot. And then you have to come back the next night in order to play again. I wonder if maybe they wanted to put in a full game of pool, but couldn't for some reason. Maybe there was some kind of limitation, or they ran out of time. But who knows?
すいません。
おや。葉月さんとこの。
りょうです。
そうそう、そうだったね。のぞみからよく聞いてるよ。
そうですか。
毎晩ね、のぞみがよく話するんだよ。りょうくんのこと心配だって。
そうですか。
I guess in a more modern game, a pool minigame like that would be like a fully fledged pool game where you'd actually play a full game of billiards or something, and you'd have like a full score counter and all that kind of stuff. But not in this game, I guess. You know, there must have been some kind of limitation.
ちょっと聞きたいことが。
悪いな、りょうちゃん。野暮用があってね。
そうですか。じゃあまた。
Well, it's getting late. Don't want to make Ine-san worried about us, so I think we should make our way back to the Hazuki Dojo. As I mentioned before, this is a straight port. There have been no changes to the game engine or anything, so all the glitches have actually remained intact. You can still do the thing where you skip disc 1. Of course, this game doesn't use discs, but you can skip a huge part of the game by sort of clipping Ria Hazuki into some stairs and making him float into the sky. It's kind of weird.
葉月じゃねえか。
お前
やる気か？
俺はいつでも構わないが邪魔したな。すいません。
あ？何者てめえ。
ちょっと。
なんだよてめえ。何ガンつけてんだ
よ。よ
なんだよ。
おい長島。
用がないなら俺は行くからな。
邪魔したな。
Yeah, it's just kind of weird. Those weird delinquents always hang out in that alley at night time. And they just kind of sit around and do nothing, really. Not really sure why they always stand up when they start to talk to you. Like, they're all crouching down and then you speak to them and they immediately stand up. It looks a bit awkward. It's getting late, but we can't go home without paying a visit to the cat first. How are you doing, little buddy?
ほら気持ちいいだろ。タマ元気か？俺のことも覚えてくれたみたいだな。
Thankfully, I have some cat food in my inventory, so let's give her some salami.
ほら食べな。うまいぞ。そんな慌てなくてもいいよ。
Oh, that's business taken care of. Let's head on back to the Hazuki Dojo. And yeah, that's basically Shenmue HD. You know, I didn't really do much today. I just kind of walked around and did my own thing. Played some video games, bought some toys, bought a cassette tape, talked to some people. That's about it, really. And that's all you know, that you can do that. That's the thing about Shenmue. It's up to you. And yeah, it's Shenmue. It's the same game as it is. It's not a remastered port. It's you know, just HD, and it's a pretty good port. And I would highly recommend it. I'll admit it's not for everyone, but yeah, it's a game I like. So I'm glad it's finally available on modern platforms. Now, at this point, I was going to call my friends Naoyuki and Nozomi, but for some reason my recording software crapped out as I was dialing the numbers, so you're going to see an edit that goes straight to bedtime. So yeah, that sums up this video. That about wraps things up. So I hope you enjoyed revisiting Shenmue again with me. Sorry I'm not doing a full let's play of this game. I don't see a point really. If you want to experience the game again, just watch my let's play again or just buy the game yourself. Anyway, that's all for now. Good night everyone.